Welcome to Lady Leadership, the podcast that celebrates and amplifies the voices of inspiring women leaders around the world. I'm your host, Sam McIntyre, and today we have Kate Christie. Kate's the author of The Life List, but she's also a best-selling author of 5 books and has been invited to speak to audiences around the world. She's a top time management expert and worked with clients such as Bupa, Westpac, Specsavers, L'Oreal, and others. And she's widely regarded for her dynamic, engaging, and motivational presentations where she inspires audiences. Thank you, Kate, for being on Lady Leadership today.
My absolute pleasure, Samantha. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. Now, I was stalking you on LinkedIn. I saw your recent book, The Life List, and I was very intrigued. You got my attention. I'm actually going to turn 51 on Friday. So
Happy birthday.
thank you. And so I've come over that hump of 50, and I just thought you'd be a great guest to have on the show.
Yeah, thank you. Look, the Life List is very much targeted at women exactly like you, midlife women, women who are professionals still, working really at the top of our game. You don't get to this age without having a degree of real drive and ambition, and we're successful. We're at the top of our professional game, but we're also at a point in time where we have this really beautiful opportunity to transition and to start living life very differently. And that's what I'm very focused on these days.
Love it. And you just said that you're you've escaped to your beach house for a couple of days, which is nice.
Yeah. I finished a coaching call yesterday, and it's been hectic. I'm a single mum. I've got 3 young adult children who all live at home, which it's sometimes like a hotel. You never know who's going to be. They could have no one there for days, or all of a sudden there's them and all the partners, and it's, you just never quite know what the day is going to bring. And I looked at my calendar and I had nothing that I needed to be face to face for. And I just made a snap decision: get out of here, lady, run, run like the wind, bullseye. And
I think it's, sometimes you just got to disconnect yourself and go and have a few days by yourself if you can, and like you said, the kids are a bit older now, and mine are a little bit younger. They're 12 and 15. But my husband's really capable. And so, yeah, I've done that too. I've just taken off. And I think when you kind of do rediscover yourself I think since I had the children, it's sort of been 10 years. And I was like, oh my God, I just feel like I'm getting myself back.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a lot, being a mum or a parent and working and trying to be the best that you can, and being a good daughter and partner and mother and sister and friend. And often we leave ourselves to last. We are often incredibly good at nurturing everyone around us, and it can leave us feeling phenomenally depleted. And I'm much more in touch with that now and these days, where I'm very much making sure that I also fill my own cup. And it's an interesting transition, because I wrestled then with this concept of being selfish and being seen to be selfish, and being judged as selfish. And I've well and truly put that one to bed. But we are often, as women, we're seen as having to be it all and do it all and hold the fort and be there for everyone else, and we're phenomenally selfless.
Yeah.
And I'm very much about us as a cohort starting to understand that it's okay to be a little bit less selfless. It's okay to be a little bit more selfish. And I think at this age and at this stage in my life, I'm absolutely embracing the exquisite joy of being unapologetically selfish.
I remember, so having this conversation reminds me of my mum when I was growing up, and unfortunately I lost my mum nearly 2 years ago. But I remember her always putting food on other people's plates before she put food on her own, or even mine. I was like, it was my dad, my brother, myself, and then her, or her and I. Do you know what I mean? Like divvied up like the best cut of meat for the men. And
yeah.
you know, she was obviously raised that way, but I do really kind of remember that, and it sort of stands out. Or serving yourself last always. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. We do. We fill our own cup last, and it doesn't make sense, because when we are the giver and the nurturer and the carer and the person who, you know, if we hold ourselves out to be this selfless person, then it makes no sense to not fill our own cup, because how can we possibly turn up as our best selves to help and give and nurture for everyone else unless we're at our best ourselves?
Yeah, and you know, they say on the airplane, don't they? Put your own mask on first, and put your
That's it.
yeah.
You know, it sounds trite. Well, it's trite for a reason, because it's actually makes sense, and it's something we need to be doing more of. So I'm all for it. I'm very much barracking for, if not captain of, Team Me at the moment.
I mean, I've said this on the podcast before. I've got 2 boys, 12 and 15, and my husband, and they're like a little tribe, right? And so and often they'll be like, "Do you want to come fishing?" And I'm like, "No, I don't actually." And I'm okay with that. They even bought me a fishing rod one year for Christmas, and I haven't really used that rod that much. And they're a bit like, "Why don't you want to come?" And I'm like, "Because I got other things I enjoy doing more for my."
And
you know.
it's lovely that they wanted to involve you, but
Yeah.
you would have been putting the worm on your hook last.
Yeah.
You would have been casting last. You would have been finishing first. You would have been cleaning the fish. You would have been gutting the fish. You would have been cleaning up after everyone else. And you would have been cooking.
I wouldn't have been gutting the fish. I don't gut the fish. That's no. But I know what you're saying. I absolutely know what you're saying. I have been with them a couple of times. It is kind of fun to do occasionally, but it's not every time. Do you know what I mean?
No,
I don't want to get up.
That they want to have you on. That's beautiful. And sometimes you'll go and it'll be lovely, but it's also just a good opportunity to practice saying no. You know, we don't always have to say yes.
That's right. And to have your own boundaries. And if you don't set your own boundaries, then no one's going to set them. Other people will set them for you.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. If you don't respect your own boundaries, then no one else is going to respect them either.
Nice. And so women, especially women from their 50s, often feel invisible. Tell me a little bit about that.
Look, it's a funny one, you know, because I don't feel invisible. The women I am friends with don't feel invisible. And the more I've delved into this, I think it's a discussion or a conversation that's happening about us, and it's often portrayed through the media, where we're told that we're feeling invisible, that we're told we are invisible, and there'll be an article, "Oh, I feel so invisible," and yet a lot of the women I speak to do not feel that way, and it's almost like it's this dialogue that's imposed upon us. I feel that being in our 50s or 40s, 50s, 60s plus, it's a period of beautiful, powerful transition. You know, many of us are perimenopausal or even menopausal. You have this transformation of your body. Many of us, our kids are older. We may be approaching empty nesting. Some of us are empty nesting. Some of us don't have children, but we still want to work, or we may want to work slightly differently. It's this period of time where we get to basically design the next stage of our lives. And for mine, invisibility just does not come into the discussion. I just don't think it's relevant. I'm feeling young. I'm energetic. I am champing at the bit to live this incredibly amazing, audacious life that I get to design for myself. My business is doing well. I'm successful. I'm fit. I'm healthy. Forbes describes us, women in our 50s, as super consumers. We are the most educated, professional, highest income earning bracket of women in our 50s ever. We are fit, we're healthy, we've suddenly got time on our hands, and we've got a little bit more money to spend. We're the highest demographic or earner of $100,000 or more of any generation.
Wow.
So if anything, the invisibility perhaps is that perhaps brands don't understand us. They don't market to us. They seem to lump us into their marketing spend, where they spend all their money on millennials. and hope that they'll sort of scoop us up in the net. So I think that that's perhaps where the invisibility comes from, that brands just don't get us and they don't seem to understand our value as a powerful consumer. But on the whole, I don't feel invisible. I feel very seen. And I guess for me, the most important thing is that I'm seen by the people I love the most. As long as they see me and they value me, and I see me and I value me, I don't really care what the media says I'm supposed to be thinking or feeling at the moment.
I love it. I mean, that's so true. I mean, I'm not sure I'm getting wolf whistles down the street, right? But that's not appropriate anyway. And who wants some builders?
I don't want it. No,
I don't want it.
I remember when I was pregnant with my first son. So he's 23. So 23 years ago. And I was walking down the street and I was enormously pregnant. So I'm just under 6 foot. I'm very slim. But when I was pregnant, either between the multitude of magnums that I was eating, or just perhaps my body needed to put on weight, I put on an average of 22 kilos with each of my pregnancies. And then I lost it immediately because I'm lucky. I've got this metabolism. I'm slim and tall. But I was remember I was very pregnant, like heavily pregnant. And I was at work and I was walking down the street, and from behind, I didn't look pregnant, but I had my tush was probably more pronounced than before. And perhaps my skirt was tighter than it had been, but it was honestly, I had this humongous belly. And these guys coming up behind me wolf whistled me. And I turned around, and the looks of horror on their faces, like I turned around, it was like moving the Titanic, and this huge belly just turned around, and they were horrified and then phenomenally apologetic, like, oh my God, we're so sorry. Oh my God, we're so sorry. And I thought it was hilarious because first I'd been objectified, which it's just like, come on, guys, what century are we living in?
Yeah, that's
but
right.
then they immediately put me into this other box where they were horrified and then wanted to apologize for objectifying me because all of a sudden I wasn't sexy, I was enormously pregnant. And the whole thing was just hilarious. And I just stood there and laughed and enjoyed their discomfort.
Yes.
But just sort of thought to myself, God, there's so many levels of this that are so wrong, but just so hilariously enjoyable for me right now. And I guess I feel the same way now. If you want a wolf whistle me, knock yourself out, but I will challenge you on it. And that'll become uncomfortable for you, but maybe just don't.
Yeah. So true. And it is an interesting narrative from the media. I hadn't really kind of thought about it. It's like fake news, isn't it, really?
Yeah, it is. It's a story they're selling. I mean, do you feel invisible? Do any of your girlfriends feel invisible?
I don't think so. But I mean, do they mean you're invisible if you're trying to go into the clubs and pick up? Like, is that what we're talking about? I
don't know. I just don't want to do that.
No, God, either do I. I mean, I
want to be in bed by 9
my 15-year-old's tucking me in at 9:30 practically. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's like, I can't believe you go to bed so early. I'm like, well, yeah, I'm old.
Yeah, I'm tired, honey.
Yeah, I enjoy sleeping.
Yeah, I absolutely, me too.
It's a sport for me. But yeah, no, I don't feel invisible at all. And I think what you said around, I'm not invisible to my children at all. I'm quite proud of the fact that I'm involved with them and interested with them in what they're doing, and that they want to share news with me around what they've done in their day. And they try and we have dinner together. They try and leave the table a bit earlier, and I'm sure they think I'm a bit daggy every now and then or whatever. But like, I think I'm doing a reasonably good job for raising nearly two teenage boys. Do you know what I mean? So.
Yeah, exactly. And as the fact that they want to sit and have dinner with you, and they're interested in you and your day, and you can have conversations, that's what it's all about.
Yeah. We're just very much like, what have you got any news? Did anything interesting happen today? Or like,
what was the best thing that happened? What was the worst thing that happened? And then this was my day, and this is the best and worst thing that happened. And you have those beautiful, courageous conversations with these wonderful children that are becoming young men and women. And it's an amazing part of our lives to be in. I couldn't feel more rich at the moment
Mm.
than I do with the relationship I have with my family, my kids, and
Yeah.
it's a good place to be.
Let's talk about the life list then. So different to a bucket list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a bucket list is a list of everything you want to do before you die.
Doesn't
And
sound so inspirational, does it?
no, it doesn't. And often it involves just travel and adventure and things that are going to hasten your death anyway, like jumping out of a plane with a flimsy silk parachute and a string, or jumping off a bridge with a rubber band tied to your ankles, or
They're two things not on my life.
not on mine either. So the life list came about for me through family tragedy, really. And we'd hit COVID, kind of hit the world, and everything started to be shut down from March 2020. And we both live in Melbourne, and so for your listeners outside of Melbourne, we had one of the most restrictive protocols around COVID in the world. And in April 2020, my ex-husband, who I'd been married to for 22 years, the father of my 3 beautiful children, he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. And within 11 months, he'd passed away. And he was only 54. And
Wow. Yeah.
It was the most brutal experience imaginable, watching your 3 young children, or young adult children, at the time they were 17, 18 and 20, watching them watch their dad die, knowing that there was not going to be a happy ending to the story, was just the most heart-wrenching experience, because there was nothing that I could do to alleviate their pain and my own pain. I'd been married to this man for 22 years. He made me laugh harder than anyone on earth has ever made me laugh. He was my best friend. And that experience was a real awakening for me. I think also with COVID and everything we were going through, and everyone was wanting to sort of simplify their lives, and it just became really apparent to me that life is too short, that I needed to live it more purposefully, that I needed to work out what I valued most, to invest my time in those things. And so I created this concept of a life list, which is the exact opposite of a bucket list. It's, what do I want to do while I'm still young enough to enjoy it? And to do it from today. And it's not just travel and adventure. There's more to life than that. Your life list needs to include, how do you want to manage your relationships? What does your lifestyle look like? Your health, your wealth, your giving. We get to this age and we have such a phenomenal repository of knowledge and talent and information. How do we best share that and pass that on? What legacy do we want to create? And so I just sort of started thinking very deeply about how I wanted to live my life much more intentionally. And I wrote an article. I'm an opinion columnist for CEO World magazine, which is an American magazine. And I'm a productivity time management expert, and I write about that for them.
Yes.
And I wrote this article about having a life list. And it took me 20 minutes to write. I remember just banging it out probably about 5 months after Dan died, about the fact that he died and I was going to live my life very differently. And here's my list of things. And at that stage, I wasn't even calling it a life list. I just said, here's my list. And it included big things like, I want to climb mountains, and I want to cold water swim every day. And then it included little things like, I'm going to, I don't want to vacuum as much, and I'm not going to stress when I order takeaway 3 times a week because I'm tired, and I'm not going to sweat the small stuff.
That's good. Sorry, the ordering takeaway is good, because we give ourselves a hard time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm just not going to give myself a hard time for that sort of stuff. I'm going to tell my kids I love them every single day, even when they're shitting me. I'm not going to vacuum as much. So I had this list of how I just wanted to live my life differently, because life's too short.
Yeah.
And I didn't even think they'd publish it, Samantha, because it was so different to what I was supposed to be writing for them.
Yeah.
And within 5 hours of me sending it to them, it was on the front page of their magazine. It went global. It went crazy. I got the most incredible feedback and emails from people around the world, firstly expressing such wonderful compassion for my children and their loss and my loss, but also saying, I love the idea of a life list and I want to do one, and can I steal yours, or can I do this? And which was so lovely of them to ask. I mean, just take it. And but I realized that perhaps I'd tapped into a bit of a vein, and I think everyone's got a backstory. We've all had pain and loss and trauma. We're in the middle of COVID. Everyone was wanting to simplify. And I think this idea of not putting stuff off till later, what's most important to you now? Okay, write a list and start living it. It just felt very important. And so I wrote the book.
Oh, look, I really like it. And I like the simplicity too of, it's not just climbing mountains. So it's not, I want to go and trek 100K, or it's simple stuff as well.
Yeah. It's the life affirming stuff that is going to make you happy and make the people around you happy. And I talk about the sorts of goals you should have on your life list. There's 3 goals. The first is the go big goals. So the climb the mountain, or the plant the 1,000,000 trees, or the raise, thousands of dollars for the charity you love. There's the go small goals, which are smaller, life affirming, joyful things that you should do every month, 2 or 3 of those a month, just to keep your cup full. And then there's the go now goals, which is those acts of spontaneity where an opportunity presents itself and you seize the day and you jump and you do it straight away. And you need to have all of them on your life list. And the go now goals were actually the hardest for me, because as a time management coach and specialist, my life is scheduled to within an inch of its life. Everything is planned for. So the concept of being spontaneous and seizing the moment was a real anathema for me. And that was the hardest one for me to do. So like yesterday, jumping in the car and heading down the coast, I would never have previously done that.
You would have planned it out. I'm going to be there.
I would have planned it. 100%. And now I've got myself used to just seizing the moment and living in the moment. And I talk a lot in the book about the power of moments and what the word means and how to use moments to change your life. It's an amazing word, actually. The word moment has 3 different definitions. The first is that it is a unit of time. So just like 60 seconds is a minute, a moment is 90 seconds. So, when you say to someone, just give me a moment, you're actually asking for 90 seconds.
Oh, is it? Right.
Yeah, which as a time management specialist, I loved that. The second definition of the word moment is that it's the description of when something moves on a hinge. So if a door rotates around a hinge, or a seesaw rotates around a hinge, that rotation is called a moment. The third definition is that it's a unit of energy. So when there's an earthquake, they measure the power of the earthquake by the momentum magnitude scale. And I just tapped into that idea thinking, if I could combine those 3 types of moments, imagine how I could set goals and change my life. All I need is to take 90 seconds of time to open a new door in my life to create earth-shaking energy and earth-shaking change. And that's the power of moments. And if you take those 90 seconds to open a new door to shake things up and you add all of them together, then you get momentum.
Nice. Yeah.
And when you've got momentum, you can create something that's momentous.
Oh,
I know, right? So I am so into this word moment and using it and just taking 90 seconds of my time every now and then just to change things up, open a new door and create a bit of energy. And there's a lot you can do in 90 seconds, Samantha. There's a lot you can do.
I'm writing. Take a moment to get momentum to be momentous.
Yeah. It's good,
That's
isn't
so
it?
Good. Very good. Very good.
Yeah.
Because I always like kind of consistency and that continuing to show up and improvement. And if you don't improve, etc. But I do like the, opening a new door or 90 seconds to head down a path to then. Yeah.
Because often we think, goal setting is so huge, it's so big, and we're chasing the audacious and the momentous and the crazy, and it becomes overwhelming. And once you think about some of those big goals you set for yourself, and the next thing that often happens once we've set a goal is, after maybe a minute or 20 minutes or an hour or a week of feeling great about it, our brain starts to tell us all the reasons why we can't.
Yeah.
And those reasons are usually associated with fear or with lack.
Yep.
So fear of failure, fear of success, fear of being judged, fear of not being perfect, or lack of time, lack of money, lack of resources, lack of knowledge. And so if we and I call them the resisting forces, and if we let the resisting forces become too dominant, we're just not going to chase our goal.
Yeah, we just don't do anything.
We just put it, it sounded like a good idea at the time. And so in the book, I work you through various frameworks, including how to identify those resisting forces, but then how to overcome them. And you've got to get them out, straight away.
Sorry. I'll take that out of the show. I was like, I'm going to sneeze, but just repeat that, please.
Yeah. So you've got to, one of the first things I get you to do after you've identified some of these goals and you've built the life list, you've got all these ideas of things you want to do, the very next step is to understand those resisting forces. Get them out onto paper. Yeah. What do I fear? What do I lack?
Yeah.
Because you have to front up to those, and you do not want them to continually to sabotage and undermine your pursuit of these incredible goals.
Yeah.
And then the third step you take is to work out what it is you most value, which is very different. Often we understand, and we do this self-help and we do programs or courses, and the question that's asked is, what are your values? Which is great, but I think a better question is, what do you most value?
Yeah.
Because once you understand what you most value, it gives you laser-like precision over where you should and should not invest your time.
What's a good example of that?
So there's 3 questions I'd get you to ask yourself to work out what you most value. And you can write down a big long list to each of these questions. So the first question is, if you were really, really sick, what would you get out of bed for?
Oh. See, I thought of the answer then.
Okay, great. And you might have one answer, or you might have 5, or you might have 10.
Yeah.
The second question is, think of the person that you most value in your life, or the person you respect, whose opinion you really hold in high regard. If and when that person was to compliment you, what would you love them to say?
Yeah. And
then the third question is, when you're with your besties, those people that you just love being with, what do you love talking about? And there'll be a big long list. Then go through and get a red pen and put a circle around any answer that comes up to all 3 questions. And you may have 5, there may be 10. I've got 3. So the 3 things I most value in my life are my kids, my business, and my health and well-being.
Yeah.
Because those things come up in answer to those 3 questions. If I was sick, what do I get out of bed for? When I'm with my friends, what do I love talking about? If I was to be praised by the person I hold in highest esteem, who's my dad, when he compliments me, they're the things I want to be complimented on.
Yeah.
So they are the things I most value. So if I have a goal that I think I'd love to chase down that goal, I would love to plant 1 million trees. The next step is I work out what the resisting forces are. What do I fear? And what do I lack? What's going to stop me achieving that goal? And I get it all out and I confront it and I sit there and think, well, I fear, what if I don't succeed? Or what if I can't find the trees? Or what if I don't know where to plant them? What if I don't have enough money to do it? And what if no one helps me? And what if people judge me? And I get all of that out. And then the next step is I turn to what is I most value. I most value my kids, my business, and my health and well-being. Well, imagine how proud my kids are going to be of me when I achieve that goal. And imagine if they come and help me do it and we do it together as a family, and how that will feel for me. My business, I'll have articles that I can write about it, and I will have a keynote that I can do, and I might be able to build a framework about it or talk about this on podcasts. My health and well-being, well, I'll be out in the sunshine, physically working, planting trees, creating something incredible that I feel good about. And all of a sudden, those resisting forces feel minuscule in the face of what it is that I most value. Once you understand what it is that drives you, what it is that you most value, you will overcome any resisting force that will rear its head up to try and stop you.
I like it.
Thank you.
I feel like I need to, because always when you in these conversations, you kind of go to your own and you're answering questions.
Yeah.
I feel like I have to sit with it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not something you can necessarily do. It's a process, and the frameworks in the book take you through that process, first of how to write your own life list, what should be on it, what shouldn't be on it, anything that isn't. Anything that isn't driven by your desire and what you value, and
right.
anything that other people say should be on it.
Yeah.
But if it doesn't align with those 3 or 5 or 8 things that you've identified as you most valuing, then it shouldn't be on it. Everything on my life list aligns with my kids, my business, and my health and well-being. Now, that doesn't mean that my kids get to do all these things with me. It just means that it aligns to, maybe they'll be proud of me, or maybe they'll be there to cheer me across the line, or maybe it'll give them an understanding of what makes me tick, or maybe it gives them space to go and do what they want because I'm off doing what I want. It's an alignment.
It doesn't mean you're there, in their lives every minute of the day.
That's it. There are a lot of things on my life list that involve my family, but there's a lot of things on my life list that don't.
Yeah.
And one of the things that's sort of going through the process of writing my own life list and the simplification that was driven out of COVID and of losing Dan and thinking about life being too short, was one of the things I've realized is I don't want to acquire anything anymore. I don't want belongings and possessions. I'm not looking to fill my house with more. I'm actually wanting to declutter and fill with less and to downsize. And I want to substitute acquisitions for experiences. So I don't buy my kids stuff for their birthdays anymore. I buy experiences, and I'll go to a concert with them, or I'll buy them. For Christmas, I bought them. We haven't done it yet, but we're off to go paintballing, and we're going to shoot the absolute crap out of each other. And it's an experience together. It'll be fun. The previous Christmas, I bought them and the girlfriends and my dad tickets to go-kart racing. So we all went off and we raced together in go-karting. And my eldest 2 are in their early 20s, but they want to hang out with me and do that stuff. So it's a win-win because it's fun.
Are you taking the girlfriends for the paintball? Are you going
to absolutely.
Girlfriends
hell yeah. It's everyone. It's all of us. And we're going to absolutely shoot each other to kingdom come. And for sure, I will be the number one target. Like, they will be going after me like no one's business, including the girlfriends. They're brutal. But it'll be hilarious. It's just going to be so much fun.
There is, I think, because I've noticed in myself as well, and maybe it's COVID as well, right? There is this kind of, I think you get to a certain age and you shift in terms of your desire for materialistic type. I still like nice things, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't light you up as much. You go and buy a new top or a new jacket and you just feel the same. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. I'm chasing a different kind of sense of satisfaction. And I think also, I've talked to a lot of women our age about what is important to us in terms of coming to write the book. And, we're very environmentally focused. We're very, looking for sustainability. We're focused on quality over quantity. We're making very different decisions around what we do want to acquire and what we don't want to acquire. And it is that simplification piece. I don't want more stuff that's just going to end up in landfill. It's actually important enough to me to not have that stuff because I now value the environment more and I'm just more conscious of it. And I think these are the sorts of discussions that we're having more and more with our peers. And I'm with you. Like, I still, it's winter. I've bought myself a beautiful cashmere jumper. I want to be warm, but I will buy something of lovely quality that will endure, as opposed to something that's highly disposable.
Yeah. Yep. Talk to me about time management then, because you're a time management expert. So I think I need my 5 minutes of time management.
You need your fix. Look, time management is interesting because none of us can manage time. No one can.
Yeah.
We can't speed it up. We can't slow it down. We can't buy more. We can't steal it. We can't acquire it. We all have exactly the same amount of time. And so if we come at time from the position of wanting to manage it, we're always going to fail. So I'd love you to sort of shift your thinking away from how do I manage my time to thinking about your time as an investment. We need to start thinking about our time the way we think about our money, as a very precious, very limited resource that needs to be invested for the greatest possible return. So rather than sort of saying, well, how am I going to manage my time, or where am I going to invest my time today? And in terms of, is this task, is this job, is this chore, is this thing I've chosen right now the best investment for my time?
Yeah.
And once you start thinking of your time as something that needs to be invested as opposed to something that needs to be managed, I think then you can make much more conscious decisions around where you then spend your time.
Good advice. Kate, what's the best way for people to get in contact with you?
You can find me through my website, which is www.katechristie.com.au. All my contact details are on there. You can connect with me on LinkedIn or Facebook. I'm sure the details will be in the show notes.
They will be.
I would very much love people to have a look at the life list and think also about creating your own life list, and maybe send me a message to let me know what's on your life list.
I like it. I like the big goals, small goals, and acts of spontaneity.
It's good. You've got to have them all to make sure that you're actively working towards designing and living your perfect life, because life's too short otherwise.
Life's too short. Beautiful. Yeah. Thank you very much. And my deepest condolences about Dan as well. So
thank you. Thanks, Samantha.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much for being on the show.
My pleasure. Thank you for the time.